Thank goodness it's Friday. We don't think our nerves could take much more. This is The Week That Was. I'm Simon Brown. My co-host is Giulietta, Talevi, and joining us for some much disorganized ranting, Sasfin Securities' David Shapiro. And speaking of disorganized, can the market make up its mind over rate cuts? This guy sure ain't helping.
We know that reducing policy restraint too soon or too much could result in a reversal of the progress that we've seen on inflation. At the same time, reducing policy restraint too late or too little could unduly weaken economic activity and employment. In considering any adjustments to the target range for the federal funds rate, the committee will carefully assess incoming data, the evolving outlook, and the balance of risks.
Could we have Alan Greenspan back? I mean, he just told us nothing. At least we couldn't understand Alan Greenspan, but we knew he was saying something. What he basically said is don't know. The dot plot, which I got to be honest, I don't think I'd ever heard of a dot plot until about a year ago. They said only one cut.
No. He blinked.
He blinked. Is
He might
that the
have
sign?
only blinked with one eye, but he blinked. And I think it's an indication that things are slowing down. We will have one cut. We could have two cuts. I think when they start, they're going to come at a fast speed. So I think markets are kind of hesitant, but it's
hesitant. They're at all-time highs.
They're still hesitant.
Here's a fun fact. I bought some NVIDIA a month ago, and I felt silly because I'd missed it all, except it's up 44% in a month.
Is that all?
Markets are not hesitant. Markets are going
What
to
I
the
love
moon.
it is that you did it, because there are very few people who were prepared to buy NVIDIA and are still not prepared to buy NVIDIA. And yet I think this is a story that's going to continue.
But you talk about markets, as in the whole market, and NVIDIA. There's a big difference, surely, between the two. I mean, and you know, John authors the perma bear, the grout, who is, I feel, spiritually connected to him, talking about how consumer discretionary stocks are telling you what's happening with the U.S. economy, but don't mistake a Microsoft or an NVIDIA even for kind of a broad indication of what's happening to consumer discretionary stocks. In other words, they account for so much in the index now, but they're not telling you about what's happening to the rest of the market.
No one cares.
Yeah, Microsoft doesn't care about.
No one cares. And go study markets. Go study markets over long times, over long periods. You'll find that markets are defined by only a few stocks.
Yeah.
You know, and if you chose those few stocks, you've done brilliantly. So I think that if you do the investigation, you do the analysis, you'll find that this is not unique.
Yeah. It used to be energy stocks 20 years ago,
Absolutely.
and before that it was the diversified industrials and...
Dead right. And that's why I'm saying it's always defined. That's why I can never understand these unit trusts or these ETFs or these funds, where there are thousands of shares. When you drill it down, you'll find that it's a handful of shares that are actually giving you the performance of those funds, which is normally if you would have just bought those funds for a portfolio of your own.
And as for the JSE, do you think there's a certain latent optimism?
No.
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 He had to prick the balloon of hope.
No, there's hope. I'm quite satisfied as where we're going, and I'm very encouraged by the political developments. The problem is that 80% of our market is offshore, got nothing to do with South Africa. You know, it's all those big offshore companies, which has its own life. But what worries me, Juliet, is the mining markets. They're not responding to Wayne McCurry's optimism, you know. And I think Wayne's just got to give them a bit of a push or something. I mean, if you look at Billiton, you look at Anglos, you look at Sasol, you look at all of these, they're not going where we want them to go. In this kind of environment of reduced rates and optimism.
Yeah. Well, also making news this week, US capitalism is alive and well as Elon gets his 40-something billions. But why did he have to ditch the like button? The age of the newspaper is all but over, as is 16-time Nathan's hot dog eating contest champion Joey Chestnut's career, it seems, who will not participate this year, in case you were wondering. We've got results. Johan Rupert has got the big bucks. Hunter Biden won't be getting a presidential pardon. France has political turmoil aplenty. The EU right has the upper hand. And at home, we may be closer to having a government. So today, as we record the show, we have all the MPs being sworn in. except for the MK. MKP. So by the time this show flights tonight, we should know who the president is, and the speaker,
and
the deputy speaker. And is that about it?
That'll be it. But it'll give us a good indication of what the GNU will kind of look like.
I'm just looking at the background here. Look, it has to be optimistic. I think one has to be a little more encouraged than if the EFF, Carl Niehaus and his mining boots and funny hat, honestly,
if
thank
that's not
goodness,
performative,
that's
I don't know
what
what
I'm saying. Thank goodness they're not going to be part of it, because, I mean, that's just a party that wants to take us down. I don't want to say Simon's here with the MK around and that, but you don't want that. We've had enough of it, 30 years of going nowhere. It's just time to press that reset button.
But I mean, there are a couple of thoughts here. I mean, the first is to the earlier point about positivity. Surely markets are going to like it. A centralist government, some level of oversight on ANC incompetence with no respect to the ANC because we've got the receipts. I mean, Rand 1835, as we're coming in to record, I mean, we've seen foreigners selling our market for the last decade, maybe. Do they start to reappear, perhaps? And
they will. They will, but unfortunately, it's going to be in those, the retailers and the banks.
That's fine. I hold those stocks.
No, you will do okay, and I think you're going to do it against a background of improving circumstances, growth, lower interest rates. It's going to happen. So I think that if you do hold those stocks, you're going to do well. You will do well, but it's going to take time. I mean,
Nvidia well, or just like
no. Nearly Nvidia well. I think I saw Adobe's results last night as well. Still, this theme is not gone.
But imagine we get to 3% growth. That's more than double what we have now. I mean, 3% growth is modest. But imagine we get there.
But it's actual growth.
It's actual growth. And if we could get a government, as you said, that curbs the excesses and complete unparalleled incompetence of the ANC and actually provide services to the country, maintain cities, build schools and clinics and dams and roads, you will see an absolute burgeoning in South Africa.
We've just got to get rid of that mindset that has governed us for the last 30 years, which is, I'm a minister I've got a ministerial post that entitles me to 2 SUVs and to all these things. You've got to get that out the system. And you've got to get people who want to. Yeah.
And it's going to take time. Giulietta, everything you say, roads and schools and make Cape Town Port great again, all of that is not going to happen
overnight.
It's going to be years. And I think that might be the risk, is that we get the enthusiasm and then the reality is this is a slow grind. Well, meanwhile, in Europe, the ascendancy of the right has caused all sorts of chaos. And if you thought we were in a state, we sure ain't the only ones. Witness Macron's big electoral gamble. So he just like, let's do this again. Called a snap election. Like 3 years early.
I've never understood French politics. At one stage of my life, we were owned by a French firm. What I loved about it, the first thing they did is gave us 6 weeks leave. You say, that's it. That's
and about French. 2 years paternity leave as well.
But you're not going to believe this. If you worked for 10 years, you could take a 2-year sabbatical. Okay, listen to it. 2-year sabbatical. Come back, and they had to give you the same job. Okay, that's the French.
Hang on,
so understand what socialism means.
That's why I love socialism.
Yeah, so I'm saying, to change the mindset of the French or to understand the French is not easy.
But it's not just an indication on France, because it was as a result of the European Parliament elections. And I have to read a tweet that someone posted today, and because you've got this I suppose, outrage at the far right emergence in Europe. But actually, this and I happen to agree with this. This person said far right used to mean skinheads, neo-Nazis, and white supremacists. Now it means 1990s liberals who believe in well-managed migration, being careful with big pharma, and women without penises. So, in other words, So what has been couched as far right is actually maybe would have been centre-right 15 years ago. And Europe has had untrammeled mass migration, and it's resulted in all sorts of social problems. That's something that they're going to have to grapple with.
I think this is what's coming out in the views there. But I heard a view that with the European elections, that's how people got rid of their frustrations. They were never going to vote for these parties, but they thought, okay, European elections mean nothing. Yeah. Let's vote for them now and register our disdain or
because if you look at it, you're 100% right. What happens if you look at Le Pen, what she gets in Europe versus what she gets in France, there's a big gap.
That's what the view is, that this is just a frustration, an anger vote.
Because Brussels, I don't know, do they get leave in Brussels?
They get a lot of.
They certainly don't get champagne. They get champagne too.
Yes.
So why are we not in?
Yes, why are we not in the European Parliament? Big question. Well, staying overseas, and it's winner takes all for Tesla. Musk gets his gigantic pay package, and Texas is where it's at for the Messiah's global empire. I didn't quite understand the story, but FT has quite a good piece on it today, and essentially these were stock options awarded to him in 2018, and the argument in favor of him getting these this pay package is that it retains him at the helm of a company, and that he is really intrinsically linked to, and you wouldn't want to see him leave, would you? Because
I don't know.
Tesla without Musk is not.
I don't know.
No, I don't know.
I know he was bullied at Pretoria Boys High, but they didn't do a good enough job because he's still obnoxious, and he's a genius.
He's very obnoxious.
I don't take anything away from his intelligence and what he does, but he is rather odd, and sometimes I wish I was at Pretoria Boys or wherever he was, and also to give him a bit of a scoop, because he can be really impossible.
Yeah. So, and I got to say, Tesla has lost its innovation, and I know there's a bunch of folks out there shouting at the screen right now, but the point is that they said to Musk, if you do XYZ, we will give you one big pile of money. Short answer, keep your word.
Yeah,
in the Parliament.
I agree with you.
Whether it retain, does it retain him? The man's now worth 300 billion. That doesn't retain him anywhere. He could, he can, at some point, he could go spend time with his money, slowly count it, take it the rest of humanity.
Yes. I don't know how you spend 300 billion in a lifetime.
Dollars noch.
I don't know. Have you looked at NVIDIA, Microsoft, and Apple? Combined, $9.6 trillion. I looked up the South African economy, and I think it's 350 billion or something like that. It's the JSE, those three companies I think are 10 times the size of the JSE.
Musk could extract his revenge by just buying South Africa.
He doesn't want
closing us down. After the break, multi-choice is in the doodah, and if you can't bomb them with bombs, then rubbish is the next best thing.